two, right?
Yeah.
So we first put it on 1, 2, and when 1 comes back,
Yeah,
then
so
grab it from 1.
yeah, let me just explain as well. So when you need to have it on, you just press and hold. Is it like this?
Okay.
It means it's on. So when you speak, you'll put it. Okay. That one?
So you're just gonna hold the mic, or you can just clip it. I switch it.
Yes, when it says user 1, yeah, it's audible.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome. Can you believe it? 2023, here we are at the FameLab, South Africa. Thanks for being here. Of course, we're doing this as a hybrid. We've got a live audience, so just show people at home that there's a live audience. Can you make some noise? Right, and then obviously to all you guys who are online, thank you very much for joining us. You can now do the virtual wave. And of course, I'm not going to ask you to switch off your cell phones. If you do have a cell phone, I encourage you to use your social media platforms. And please, if you do so, use the hashtag FameLab South Africa, because we want the world to know all about this event. So maybe just quickly, a little bit of background for those of you who've never been to one of these events. FameLab started way back in 2005 in Cheltenham. And it creates basically a platform, a safe platform where scientists get an opportunity to learn how to develop their skills in order for them to engage with the general public. In 2013, Jive Media Africa launched FameLab in South Africa together with NRF SASTA and other partners. And over the past we are in the 11th year, they have trained literally thousands of young researchers. And this program actually brought us 2 international winners. We had one in 2017, and of course, last year we had another one, 2022, where Dr. Nehemiah Latola walked away as the international winner. So again, that is what's up for grabs, of course. The winner today will walk away with a cash prize. I will give you my banking details later on, and you are welcome to share that money with us. Of course, they say that the number 1 fear in life is death. Second one is public speaking. And the third one is dying while you are busy doing public speaking. So hopefully we're not going to get that today. because we've got some brilliant people here. Of course, this competition rolls out in many stages where research institutes and universities are able to offer and host heats. And out of this, we select a couple of winners. And today we have the brightest and the best here with us. We have 10 young people ready to share their science with you. So each of one of them will get 3 minutes, and their job is to share their research, but also to share the excitement with you, the audience, you online, and then also with you here on my right-hand side, our beautiful judges, the people who you can blame if you don't win later on. So today you will be assessed on 3 things. As you know, we look at the content, we look at your clarity, but we are also interested in your charisma. So we will be announcing a winner and, of course, 2 runners-up. The winner, of course, will represent South Africa at the international final, which will happen in November. So ladies and gents, sit back and enjoy the ride as I invite to the podium from NRF SASTA, the manager for the Science Communication Division, the one, the only, Michael Ellis.
Thank you to the one and only Gillian Orenser. Lovely to have you all here. Welcome. The day has arrived. FameLab finalists, the day has arrived. I don't know why you're looking so nervous. I don't know, some of you are. Really such an honor and a privilege to welcome you all here at the South African National Finals of FameLab 2023. It's been a wonderful journey to get here. At the National Research Foundation, our vision, and I mentioned this earlier, is research for a better society. This vision necessitates that we view broader South African publics and communities as being integral to the research process. And that means that communication with everybody is necessary. So what we're going to be hearing about this evening is this effective, impactful, and relevant science communication with broader society, between researchers and broader society. The national departments in South Africa of Science and Innovation have set some key priorities that highlight the importance of developing science communication skills for enhanced engagement in South Africa. And I heard from a journalist that she doesn't like the word engagement, so maybe I should change that in the speech. Every engagement I'll have to replace with something else. The key aim of FameLab is to develop skills and confidence of young scientists and early career researchers to enable them to establish conversations about their research. As a business unit of the National Research Foundation, the South African Agency of Science and Technology Advancement value programs such as FameLab, which have made and continue to make a valuable contribution to science communication skills development for young scientists in South Africa. In a recent article by Professor Marina Joubert, she reflects on a talk by Sonia Pemberton, a multi-award-winning Australian filmmaker. In the talk, Pemberton had stated that to build trust with an audience, scientists must demonstrate, firstly, that they are competent experts, but they must also come across as warm, caring, and human. So maybe that's a bit of a tip for you guys for this evening. She also points out that there are 5 golden rules for effective science communication. We need to firstly acknowledge uncertainty. Science isn't always a certain pursuit. There is definitely uncertainty in our research and things that we are uncertain about as we delve into nature and the processes that surround us. Avoid polarizing messages. So to polarize our audience in one direction or another. Check for biases, incite curiosity, and embrace complexity. I've also recently been reading a book called Curious, The Desire to Know and Why Our Future Depends on It, by Ian Leslie. In the book, he describes how everybody is born curious. But some of us, unfortunately, lose that, but others are able to retain the habits of exploring, learning, and discovering as they grow older. He also makes the point that good speakers and writers are able to capture the attention of those to whom they are communicating by developing a deep sense of curiosity in what they are communicating. In the NRF, we also believe that communication is a key skill to ensure broader societal and knowledge impact of research in South Africa. We have recently adopted what we term the Engaged Research Framework, or NRF Engaged Research Framework, which lays out a need for upstream, midstream, and downstream societal engagement with research. So I'd like to end off really by wishing all the FameLab contestants well. Best of luck for today. We look forward to hearing your personal research stories and to become deeply curious about what it is that you do as a researcher. So take us on that journey. We're looking forward to going on that journey with you. Enjoy it, enjoy the journey, and we're rooting for you all. So go for it, guys.
Right, thank you very much, Michael. So you've been welcomed. Of course, Michael has set the scene. He's also given you some tips and pointers. It reminds me of that time when I went for my driver's license test. And then you walk in and then the invigilator says, just to calm your nerves, we're going to give you 3 questions just to warm up. And then they give you the 3 questions and then you get all 3 wrong. And then it's all hell breaks loose. And some of you are there now. So I want you to just breathe, just relax. This is not the end of the world. At the end, if it's not yet okay, you just keep on going. To allow me to give you some space to cool down, and let me quickly introduce to you our judges for 2023. First up, so you can just wave, we've got Ina Skosana. She's the news editor at Health E News Service, and Ina has won several national awards for her reporting and has contributed to the South African National Editors Forum Guide for reporting on pandemics. Ladies and gents, Ina. Then our second judge for today is Dr. Lucky Ditwane. Hope I've got that right. He's a seasoned, got it wrong? But you know that you are that person. So he's a seasoned corporate communications specialist with more than 3 decades of experience in the private and public sectors. With a career dedicated to corporate communication and public relations, his expertise spans a diverse range of domains, and he's currently the Director of Communications and Engagements at the Human Sciences Research Council. Welcome, Lucky. Then our third judge for this afternoon is Dr. Nosipho Mkomzulu. Good job. Good job. I'm getting better. She holds a PhD in social anthropology from Rhodes University. She's interested in contemporary youth identification practices in South Africa and Mauritius. Nosipho has worked as a lecturer at the University of Cape Town and is currently a lecturer at the University of the Witwatersrand. And she's also a research fellow in science communication at Stellenbosch University's Department of Journalism. Nosipho, thanks for being here. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Thabiso Nkone. He's the Corporate Communications Manager at the National Research Foundation. He's responsible for corporate and research communication. His favorite quote is by Toni Morrison, and it reads, "All of us, readers and writers, are bereft when criticism remains too polite or too fearful to notice a disrupting darkness before its eyes." Ladies and gentlemen, that is Thabiso. All right. So are you ready to rock? Your judges have been introduced. The stage has been set. On my left-hand side, there's a little table where you are allowed to put on your props. Hopefully you've got a microphone. You're all mic'd up as you come on stage. Just make sure that it's switched on before you start your presentation. Allow me then, ladies and gentlemen, and also you at home, to introduce to you our first contestant. Oh, my word. Horitilione Upeng. This MSc student is from the University of Pretoria and affiliated with the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences, and looking closer at the link between pheromones and reproductive dominance in honeybee workers of the Savannah bee. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your first FameLab.
Okay.
Right? Oh my God. So, magicians make things appear out of thin air, but the world doesn't, but it sure looks like it. So it's spring. Those of us that have gardens have seen their trees flowering. But just like that, like magic, few months down the line, there is fruits. It is not magic though. It is the work of a few garden employees. Not what you thought, not people, not the men in overalls. Insects. Of those insects, we have honeybees. Honeybees are the largest pollinators globally. They pollinate over 60% of the world's plants. 25% of those plants make up or go to feed over 1 billion people. And the remainder of those plants still feed us anyway. You must be wondering how, right? The plants that we don't eat are eaten by the animals that we eat, and therefore we get fed anyway. Honeybees pollinate plants by carrying pollen from the male part of the flower to the female part of the flower, and thereby fertilizing that plant, making it possible to bear us the fruits that we eat. Now, I need you to imagine this. You are living in a world where there are no bees to pollinate any plants. Can you imagine that? And therefore, those plants cannot bear any fruits. Millions of people are going to go hungry because no fruit is equal to food scarcity. And that means the food that is available at that moment is going to be sold at very high prices. So again, billions are going to go hungry. Recently, honeybee populations have been dropping due to factors such as deforestation, people disturbing wild honeybee colonies, and climate change. And so, in order to solve this problem, we came up with a little bit of a solution. We decided we are going to spy on the bee communication system like a good spy. So, unlike you and I, bees cannot talk, but they communicate using chemicals called pheromones. These pheromones can affect how the bees behave and also how they develop on the inside. The queen, Her Majesty, in a honeybee colony is known to be the only one that is reproductively active. But you must be wondering, how does she achieve this? I know you thought it. Pheromones. The queen produces the largest pheromones that cause other honeybee workers to focus on other tasks of the hive instead of being reproductively active. So, why is this so possible? We will find out. So, we know that once the queen in a honeybee colony is lost, honeybee workers can become reproductively active. We know that this process is mediated by pheromones, but which pheromones, we have no idea. And this is where my research comes into place. By exposing honeybee workers to multiple blends of pheromones, we will be able to know which pheromones allow honeybee workers to become reproductively active. This will allow us to make our own queens. Because queens are the ones that are usually reproductively active, they will be able to lay eggs and reboot the low numbers of honeybee colonies. So as I engage in my research, I would like to ask all of you guys to go and plant more trees, stop disturbing wild honeybee colonies because you never know, you might kill a queen. And to the researchers out there, let's engage with students and teach them about climate change in order to solve that little crisis that I told you about, a world without honeybees. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. All I heard that, bees are matchmakers. They connect the males to the females. Let me turn to my judges and find out, to be or not to be.
Yes.
My question is, who would be your typical target audience
for my research?
Yeah.
So my research is trying to focus on beekeepers because beekeepers are the ones that can drive us into having more honeybees out there. But also is to focus on the agricultural sector because bee pollinate many plants. Without bees, we cannot have plants, and therefore we try to engage with the agriculture sector to try to invest in research like this. But also the public as a whole need to help us. Most people, especially from the villages, they tend to go outside and disturb the bees that are there, eventually killing the queen and entirely killing the colony. So that.
So thank you for that presentation and thank you for the talks for honoring us with that book. So you mentioned that there are different pheromones that, in fact, that affect how each bee changes, whether it becomes the queen bee or the worker bee.
Yes.
So that set of pheromones, how many different pheromones are there?
I wouldn't say we have identified all of them. But we know that the queen produces her own set of pheromones, but the workers themselves also have pheromones that they use. But lastly, we have in a honeybee colony, there is usually the larvae. We call them the brood. They also produce pheromones. but we don't know also how they affect the honeybee workers. So minus the ones that have not been identified, these are the ones that I also know.
All right, let's give another round of applause to Mr. G. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so that was our first contestant for 2023. We now move on to contestant number 2, Nombali Gumede. Nombali's research could be just what the doctor ordered. While HIV treatment has come a long way, this MSc student at the HIV pathogenesis program at UKZN hopes to lift the logistic and economic burden of daily medication for those living with HIV. Ladies and gents, here we have Nombali.
Greetings. Imagine an alien invading into your planet and start destroying it in order for it to live comfortably. In trying to fight it off, you then create robots. But another problem with this alien is that it keeps on changing itself. It's getting smarter. Plus, the robots and the robots. Can I cut off again, please? Okay. So, with these robots that have been created, there's nothing wrong with them. They are able to fight off the alien, but at times, because this alien keeps on changing, they sometimes fail to comply with this forever changing alien. Plus, more robots need to be replaced every day in order to keep up with the battlefield. This is how HIV invades inside our body and starts destroying our immune system. And the robots in this case is the treatment that HIV individuals have to take every day. According to the UNAIDS report 2022, there's 34.7 million people that are currently living with HIV. And amongst them, 29 million people have access to the treatment. The treatment of HIV has greatly improved the lives of our people, that we must admit. However, there's still challenges associated with it, such as drug resistance, drug side effects, and the stigmatism around HIV. But the biggest one that I'd like to focus on today is adherence, having to take the treatment of HIV for the rest of your life. I mean, how feasible it is for these individuals to comply to this, considering that we still have people that are struggling to taking the TB treatment for only just 6 months. And now imagine a 15-year-old teenager that has just found out that they're HIV positive and has to comply to this treatment for the rest of their lives. With that question in mind, I'd then like to introduce you to my research project that is looking at the virus from the blood samples that were collected from a clinical trial that is currently being run, whereby HIV-positive individuals are given what is called the monoclonal antibodies as an alternative method to treat HIV instead of taking a pill every day. So in this context, we can say these monoclonal antibodies are like the more transformed robots that are able to fight the virus better. So my role now in this study is to first look at the virus at 2 time points. First, any initial stage when the virus got inside their body, and after they've taken the treatment. By so doing that, we're trying to see if will these antibodies be able to keep the virus at bay, and will the virus not be able to retransform itself? Because just like I mentioned, the virus keeps on getting smarter and retransforming itself. Should the virus be able to mutate itself by comparing these 2 time points, then we'll see what implications do these changes have on the treatment, which is the antibodies. Should the virus not be able to mutate itself, then I guess we'll be closer to finding an alternative method of treating an HIV, whereby instead of taking a pill every day, the individual will just receive 1 jab of injection, which should sustain them for longer. And by so doing this, we'll not only be lifting the economical and global burden that comes with the current treatment, but also be finding ways that are easier for these individuals to comply to the treatment, hence reducing those long queues at the hospitals. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nombali. I'm going to hand over to our judges to hear what they heard. Adherence versus efficacy.
Hi, Nombali. Thank you very much for your interesting talk. It's encouraging to see people still doing this type of research at this stage of the HIV pandemic. So, do we know what's the longest that these antibodies have lasted in your case studies, or have you not reached that part of your research?
So in this clinical trial, because they were given this injection as a once-off, right? So they are being followed to see if would the virus emerge or come back, right? So it depends on the patient. Also depends on the initial viral load, because we have patients that have rebounded, meaning that the virus has come back, the viral load has picked up. When we have patients that have been who are still able to maintain the virus, that's a low peak whereby the viral load is even undetectable.
Thank you so much, Nobali, for a really interesting presentation. And I wanted to think with you about what are the kind of situations that you're finding that people are not adhering, I guess, to the HIV treatments that are available, and whether or not getting a jab is something that people are open to exploring.
So I mean, just like I've mentioned, we still have people that are struggling to take the treatment for only just 6 months. As ladies, it's so hard to take our contraceptives every day. I mean, as a human, it's really impossible, to be able to remember that, okay, at this point of time, I have to take a treatment. And it's a very daunting process, considering that, most of the people that are relying on this treatment are people who are, most of them are in a low economic coming from a low economic income. So they have to stand in those long queues. So that's the problem, because they have to go to hospital, wait for the whole day to get a treatment. Another thing is that I've also realized from our community is that people, because of having to stand in long queues and running out of treatment, they tend to share the treatment. And that's another reason why we have these problems of drug resistance, because it's a very daunting process to go into a public hospital and stand for the whole day waiting to get your treatment. And each and every after 3 months, you have to go back and take the treatment. So getting having this vaccine whereby these people are just going to take it for a year, it's going to help, because you know that maybe in January, I just have to go once in a year to just get my injection and I should be fine. Instead of have to remember and telling yourself that, okay, at this point of time, I have to take it all.
All right. That was Nombali talking to us about HIV and what are some of the developments in terms of treatment. And maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel. Our third participant for 2023 is Aisha Osman, who's a PhD student at UNISA, focusing on taking metals like gold, copper, and titanium and using them for dental procedures. These antibacterial alloys could be a sustainable way to improve many lives by reducing pain and suffering, often linked to failed dental implants. Girl, I want to hear more.
Okay. Can I go? So who here likes going to the dentist? Everybody cowering down. But now imagine you're sitting in the chair, you've lost some teeth, you're feeling very embarrassed about it, and they offer you a modern miracle, a dental implant, where they put a screw into your bone and top it off with a cap. Amazing, right? But it sets you back a whopping 30,000 Rand per tooth. And there's no guarantee it's going to last forever. Oh, this is starting to sound like a horror story. Let's turn this around into happily ever after, into a love story that takes place in your mouth, between your jawbone and titanium. Now, why do we like titanium? It's strong, it's light, but your bones love titanium and will grow around it, forming a bond that rivals Romeo and Juliet. Now, like any love story, there's trouble. You TikTokers will call it a thirst trap. And our parents might call it Camilla. I call it a bacterial infection that gets in between this beautiful bond and breaks it. And like any separation, when that implant says bye-bye, takes a bit of your broken bone with it. Ouch. Now here's where I come in with the innovative engineering thinking, there must be a better way that we can do this. What do we know that's naturally antibacterial? Gold. Also known for securing relationships for life. Now, how I'm doing this is in 4 steps. Step 1, a bit like baking a cake. Take your ingredients, gold and titanium. We mix it, put it into the oven, but I'm baking it at 2000 degrees Celsius. And what comes out is these little buttons, but you can't see them. So I'm going to use this. Imagine this is a little button. And the first thing that we want to check is, did it melt properly? Like any good relationship, it can't be one-sided. We can't have gold only on one end. Second thing we want to do is take a hammer and we want to beat it. How tough is this thing? Imagine you're watching the Springboks, you bite your biltong and your tooth breaks. Oh, no. We want you enjoying that biltong in peace, not pieces. Step 3, we drop it into some acid. We're looking for forever here, guys. And step 4, my favorite, what I call Temptation Island. So you get a tank and fill it with bacteria, whatever other nasty things you'll find, usually in the human mouth. And I'm going to drop my little buttons inside. And I think just one night in Temptation Island, and we will know who has the ability to stay faithful and clear of trouble, i.e. bacteria. So I know you're really excited. When can you have this done? So I'm not done yet. I'm actually still on step 2 with a hammer in my hand. What can you actually do till then? Guys, brush your teeth. Step 1, look after them. And then as for the love story between your bone and titanium, maybe with the help of a little gold, this love story is going to last forever. Maybe happily ever after does exist. Guys, it's a love story, baby. Just say yes.
Thank you very much, Aisha. I know there used to be a song, I am titanium, but you're going to change it now, I am titanium gold. So I'm going to turn to my judges and let's get some comments or some questions from them. Jabiso, you've got what?
Yeah. So thank you for that presentation. So titanium and gold are both quite expensive. So to make this product that you're working on accessible, how do you test that?
So the cost, your implant in total is going to cost you about 30,000 Rand. Your raw material costs you less than 200 Rand. And the amount of gold that we're using is so little, literally exactly what you need, less than 10%. It adds a cost of 40 Rands to your raw material. So it's actually not that bad. And what we did was we weighed it up. I think it's something like $20-odd billion into Rands. It's a big number. That of money is lost every time a dental implant falls out, because there's usually reconstructive work that has to happen first that they've got to fix, and then after that attempt putting in another implant. So when we look at the 40 Rand versus the cost saving of a lot of money, I think it's a gold standard.
Lucky?
Thank you, Alicia. What would be the objective of the presentation? Be, for example, to widen the knowledge of the audience on the topic of the subject? Would it be, for them to change their attitude or something like that? Just to elaborate.
So I think firstly, the importance of dental hygiene, take care of them. Your best bet is to first take care. And then the second thing would be that if you are considering alternatives, that we are working on long-term alternatives. So even in the dental market now, there's such a wide variety of alloys being used that I couldn't get a consistent price. And no one's guaranteeing that longevity. To say, I'm putting this in your mouth, to give you that confidence when you go there, to say, I know what they're putting in my mouth and I know it's going to last forever. In all likelihood, it's not as yet.
Right, so there's a good chance that your teeth will outlast you.
Thank you.
That was Aisha. Right, so our fourth participant for 2023 is Kaylin Reddy. Now, Kaylin is currently pursuing a PhD in botany at Stellenbosch University, using his passion for botany to explore how medicinal plants could potentially relieve anxiety and depression. So let's hear. If you feel depressed, eat a plant. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Kaylin.
Mental health. On the train of life, I'm sure many of us have made a temporary stop at the stations of anxiety and apprehension, or sadness and sorrow. However, some people spend a little more time at these stations than others, and they may suffer from chronic anxiety and depression. People who suffer from chronic mental health issues often have to take medication for prolonged periods of time. And a major issue they face is, over time, these medications and drugs just do not deliver the same kind of comfort and satisfaction that they once did. This is called building a tolerance to the drug or the medication. If I can visualize what building a tolerance to a drug looks like, you can imagine yourself as the medication or the drug, and you can imagine the parts of your brain that control anxiety and depression as beanbags. If you were to sit on a beanbag for the very first time, it would feel incredibly comfortable and shift around your shape. But if you were to sit on the very same beanbag in the very same position for 10 to 20 years, it would just not deliver the same kind of comfort. My research looks at whether we can peer into our rich African traditional medicine here in South Africa for answers to anxiety and depression. But where do we start? How do we do this? There are so many medicinal plants and so many parts of the brain that control anxiety and depression. Well, to do this, I use two approaches. Firstly, in my research, we look at the relationship between people and plants and how they've been used medicinally over years. This is called ethnobotany. And secondly, I use the power of computers. I create exact replicas of the parts of the brain that control anxiety and depression, these beanbags. And then I can take hundreds of plants and thousands of compounds before even stepping in the lab and see which ones bind most comfortably and tightly to these brilliant brain beanbags. The ultimate goal of this kind of research is to bring these much needed medications to the front line of the mental health pandemic and help people move from one difficult station in life to one of peace and serenity.
All right, Kaylin, thanks for that presentation. I'm going to turn to the judges because I do not know whether our ancestors had anxiety.
Thank you for the great presentation and wonderful reason before in your talk. I'm just curious, as you're thinking about ethnobotany, what kind of indigenous knowledge systems exist, I guess, from our ancestors to explain things like depression and anxiety?
Okay, that's a great question. It differs from culture to culture. In one of my supervisors used to study at UKZN, and they studied Zulu traditional medicine. And I'm not a specialist on that, but I'm going to speak from what he mentioned. And when some people feel a weight on them, it's sometimes referred to as a calling. So it's not interpreted as anxiety or depression, but it's given another interpretation. And this differs across cultures. And South Africa is very interesting for that with its rich cultural diversity. So it differs from story to story. And we keep this in mind when we communicate with these communities. You're not going to hear traditional diagnoses of depression and anxiety, but you're keeping an eye out for things that made them feel happy or elevated or excited. That would be something that could be an antidepressant or an anxiolytic to help with anxiety.
Thank you so much. And then what considerations are you giving to the owners of the indigenous?
Okay, so 100% of it belongs to them. And there's rules that are in place in South Africa with use of indigenous knowledge. There is benefit sharing that has to go back to these communities. Also, something that I keep quite personal to myself, the science that we discover, it is my intention to, at the end of the study, go back to these communities, go back to these landowners and tell them what these plants and science does in a different context, because they shared with us what it did in their lives. So I hope that answers that.
Right, thank you very much, Kevin. Right, so contestant number 5 is Carla Horn, who's a master's student in nursing at the Northwest University. And she noticed a gap in South Africa's disaster preparedness and wants to make big changes. Carla aims to improve patient safety and enhance healthcare for all by using creative and fun communication to make sure her ideas make an impact. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have Fun Carla.
Quick, look around you. Find the nearest emergency exit, take this baby, and run to the evacuation point. What do you mean you don't know where the nearest emergency exit is? Well, what about the rest of the South African population? According to stats, 1 million births are registered in South Africa yearly, of which 900,000 occur in governmental hospital, 90%. Surprise! That's also where 86% of South Africa receives healthcare from. So, I'd like to ask you a question. If a disaster strikes South Africa, such as a fire, flood, pandemic, COVID, or even an earthquake, where would most of our population flood to? Government hospitals. What have I told you? That only 20 of our 400 government hospitals are disaster prepared. And what is more, what about obstetrics? When trying to find research on obstetric disaster preparedness of government hospitals, you won't find any, not even in the C section of your library, because none exists. So, how do we, as a team of medical professionals, evacuate an entire ward of pregnant women, mums and babies, and preterm infants if we don't know where the emergency exit is? And like the Titanic, you might have to choose who's evacuated first. Just let that sink in. So, who goes first? A woman actively in labor, almost ready to pop, a mum and her baby fresh from an emergency C-section, or a critically ill preterm infant on a ventilator? Who does what? What if we don't have enough nursing personnel? What do you grab first, your emergency trolley or your patients? Hey lady, where's your baby? Did we leave her behind in the ward? These are some of the challenges faced during an evacuation. It all sounds quite disastrous. Well, these are the problems that my research aims to solve. How, you may ask? My research has come up with this groundbreaking 4-step approach. Opportunities for training, rehearsals and drill scenarios, evaluations, and opportunities for communication. I hope to implement this simple 4-step approach in all of our government hospitals and obstetric wards to ensure that tomorrow's future is born in a safe environment. And by providing more training opportunities, we might better familiarize everyone, including medical professionals. So, do me a favor, the next time you twist, lick, dunk, and eat an Oreo, make sure to check your nearest emergency exit, because we don't know when disaster is going to strike.
Right, that was Carla, disaster management. I know on the aeroplane they say check yourself out before you worry about the rest. So I can see mummies running without babies, but that's about it. Over to the judges. Any questions, any comments? Lucky.
Yeah, well, I almost feel sorry for the baby.
He's okay.
No, but thank you very much, David, for the presentation.
Thank you.
How do you think technology could be used to enhance the quality of your message?
Well, that's fantastic. During my research study, we've actually come across a big problem, and that is that so many of South Africa in our governmental sector caters for international women, such as, speaking in the obstetric units now, such as Zimbabweans, Malawians, and all these foreigners, which do not understand English sometimes. So TV, electronics, social media communication is an excellent way of not only preparing medical professionals, but preparing our patients in the ward as well. A simple answer is just by flashing a message on a TV to say, hey, if there's a disaster or fire in the hospital, there's your exit, take this route. I don't know if that answers the question. Great.
So I'm interested in the results of where your audio model has been applied versus where it has not been applied. What has been the distinction between the two, where it's applied and where it's not applied? What effect has it had on disaster preparedness?
So it's interesting. In South Africa, we only have 3 people that research disaster preparedness since 2008, and that was in preparation for the FIFA World Cup. So most of them, and my research also finds that there's a small percentage of hospitals that are prepared because they have had compulsory training and they have effective communicators, such as your managers or your unit managers, nursing managers, and so forth. So clearly the hospitals that do not have training that's compulsory, that do not have effective communication systems in place, and also, very important, the drills, the rehearsals, the practices, these are the hospitals that fall short. And our mass frontline workers, the nurses and the doctors all verbalize this, that they know if disaster strikes, they sort of have an idea what to do, but actually they don't know. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much, Carla. And hopefully when people eat your Oreo, they'll not just eat the sides, but they will focus on the middle bit as well. All right, so we've reached halfway. Are you guys still okay? You still listening? I just want to double check if you're listening. Can you put your right hand to the front quickly? Lovely. Forefinger on your thumb. All right, take the round bit and bring it slowly towards your face. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And take the round bit and put it on your chin. All right, where's your chin? For those here, for those at home, this is called your cheek, and your chin is actually at the bottom. All right, so clearly you are not paying attention, but at least you guys sitting at home might know that you guys got that one right. All right, so we're going to move on to our next participant, our next contestant, and this is Jason Pillay. With his passion for statistics, this master's student at the University of Pretoria and affiliated with the Center of Excellence for Math and Statistical Science wants to create new ways to solve real-world problems by developing improved estimation methodology. This could be applied across multiple fields, helping to reduce the need for expensive and time-consuming trial methods currently being used. Ladies and gents, this is Jason.
Test. Okay. On the 5th of March, 2020, a South African returning from Italy changed our lives drastically. For the next 2 years, we were put in isolation and we spent our time indoors filled with dread and worry due to COVID-19. But epidemics are not a new thing to us, lest we forget how Poloni tried to kill us in 2018, or how about the grip that the SARS virus had on our throats in 2003. So what our history tells us is that it's a matter of when, not if, the next disease takes a strike on a larger scale, and we need to be prepared. And part of that preparation includes drawing information from numbers of previously reported infections. Unfortunately, these numbers are contaminated with errors, with the most notable example being underreporting of infections. And this could happen for various reasons. People just don't have time to get tested, or they play down their symptoms to a common cold. So with that in mind, if we consider our next pandemic as an exam and our infection statistics as our notes, how can we possibly study for our exam using notes with inaccurate information? Do we just go into lockdown every time and hope for the best? Wouldn't life be at least a little bit easier if we could control the spread of infection without having to slam the brakes on life completely? Well, I'm happy to say that science has pulled through once again. Our research in mathematical and statistical fields, known as graph theory and Bayesian inference, has the potential to model the spread of infection between locations using these previously reported numbers, despite the errors that come with them. This model has two functions. First, it acts like it administers a truth serum, but to numbers on a computer instead of a criminal, and then uses these treated numbers to effectively model the infection-related risks between locations relative to each other. So what this means is government members in charge of controlling disease spread can identify high-risk areas and implement strategies accordingly. I mean, can you just imagine how differently 2020 could have been if we knew what these high-risk areas before COVID even stepped foot in the country? How much sooner we could have had control over COVID-19? So what is my takeaway from this? Recognize that even fields as abstract, perceived abstract, as mathematics work greatly towards your safety. And I urge the youth to, and I urge the youth to nurture your curiosity in the math domain. That way we'll have fresh, intelligent minds working towards the greater good, putting South Africa on the FameLab, pun intended, and so that the next time a disease tries us, it is met with a humiliating defeat. Thank you.
All right, so that was Jason. He's not a model, but he knows something about modeling. So here we are. Judges, any questions or comments to Jason?
How are you going to, how do you think your model should be communicated to the powers that be?
Communicated. So that would have to depend on how many people, or the right people to communicate this to. So that includes the intersection of people in the pharmaceutical industries, doctors, because it is This is a real life problem and it requires an intersection of many scientific domains. My purpose is to put us one step closer to how do I put this? Using, instead of just traditional reasons of how to keep us safe, let the numbers speak for us. Instead of having to, for example, we know that from what we were told during the pandemic, large gatherings are a breeding ground for disease, for spread. But that is a qualitative reason. We do collect numbers, and what are we doing with those numbers? Even though they may have errors in them, what are we doing with them? We need to quantify our reasons for these things. We need the data to map it out. So, and in order to map it out, we would also want the people in charge of putting these restrictions in place, putting lockdown in place. Let them use this as a tool to better guide them. They don't have to shut everything down. If they're just a bit more clever with how they choose to keep us isolated, how they choose to curb infection. So it would be anyone in power who has the ability to enforce these rules. And that's part of why I'm here. Hopefully hopefully it will reach the right ears, because unfortunately there are levels to who you can contact to say, please isolate for 2 years in front of a computer. Please make use of something. I hope that answers your question.
So you mentioned that despite the errors, your model has used the words truth serum.
Yes.
Now, for a non-statistician, can you explain a little bit this truth serum? How does it work? How does it function in correcting for those errors?
Okay, so how it works is you need to look at the sources of these errors. So it could be underreporting. It could be something as pulling data from different computers, something goes wrong. Either way, it could be something as simple as digits got switched around, or people don't report. So the important thing is that, and I didn't want to include it because it gets a bit technical, these errors, we don't know exactly what the number should be. We just know that there is something, and very important, potentially wrong. We don't know which number has the wrong answer or is filled with an error, so it is probabilistic. So we need to impose a good distribution that will account for these errors. So the assumption is some of these numbers are correct for those who are a bit more disciplined in reporting, but then we do make allowances for when that's not the case. And on top of that, this is where the Bayesian statistics come in. This is where we ask the pharmacists, we ask the doctors, whoever is in epidemiology, what their prior beliefs are about disease spread. And we also fit probabilistic assumptions on those. And we let the beliefs and the data sort of balance each other out to, in essence, take away those errors in that way, on a probabilistic sense. So it won't completely get rid of the errors, but it gets closer than if you just stuck to the numbers themselves.
Right, that was Jason. Next up, this master student in medical science at the Africa Research Health Institute at the University of KZN hopes to assist current treatments by using technology to identify and locate cells associated with TB disease in the lungs. The research could help to understand TB lung disease, how to limit the spread of the disease, and eventually reduce the number of those infected worldwide. Ladies and gents, here is Jessica Moore.
The Joker versus Batman. Lord Voldemort versus Harry Potter. Thanos versus the Avengers. And the worst one of them all, tuberculosis versus humanity. Yes, just like all these other popular villains, TB has roamed the earth for centuries, disappeared, and then resurrected, using its powerful ability to spread through airborne droplets, and currently causes more than 10.6 million cases worldwide every year. When TB infection occurs, a granuloma may form. A granuloma, like gran, your oma, is a collection of cells arranged in a specific way in order to contain the infection. If you envision the 1918 arcade game Pac-Man, well, an immune cell could be likened to Pac-Man. You see, it munches up bacteria and debris in an attempt to control the infection. The resultant granulomas have a spectrum of severity. For example, they can be solid and keep the bacteria in the center. They can also develop this cheesy, gooey center, and sometimes develop a hole, which causes a lung cavity, and this allows the bacteria to spread. Because unfortunately, sometimes Pac-Man loses and it's game over. So how do we keep the game going to reach the next level? Well, you all have mobile devices with a unique identifier called an IP address. And somewhere in space is a satellite orbiting the Earth, linking you to the African continent, more specifically to South Africa, Gauteng, Pretoria, and this very auditorium in which you are sitting right now. In a similar way, the research that I do uses groundbreaking spatial mapping techniques to locate immune cells in granulomas using their own unique identifiers. So this science-based version of Google Maps helps me see where these immune cells are, possibly what they're doing and how they're contributing to TB lung damage. So to reach the ultimate Super Saiyan level, I can use this new mapping technique to make treatments to target these specific lung damage together with current treatments which target and kill bacteria. And together these treatments could reduce the duration that people take TB treatment to under 6 months. So let's invest in TB treatment. Let's take out TB treatment so that we can reduce the number of people that have TB by 80% by 2030. Because just like the Avengers, you and I can change the end game. Players ready? Game on.
All right, thanks, Jessica. So it's using the GIS to sort out the TB in the LUNGS.
Yeah.
That is what I got, judges. I have no idea what you got. Over to you for some questions or comments.
Does your research look at active TB infection or TB disease or just the infection as a whole?
Okay, thank you for asking that question because just for everybody, there has been a change in the nomenclature from active to latent and the difference between TB disease and infection. So thank you for asking that question. And my research it looks at active TB as well. So I'm looking at that too, yes.
So you're looking at both the infection and the disease?
Yes, yes.
Or maybe I can ask. I mean, anything on drug-resistant TB and the fact that as you take drugs, you end up getting deaf?
Oh, okay. So you're asking about side effects of some of the medication. Okay, yes, that there are some TB medications, you are right, that cause deafness. But when somebody takes drug-resistant medication, it's something that your doctor will talk to you about. And when you go for checkups, they will do tests to check how your hearing is. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're going to with a lot of the medication. There are side effects, but sometimes you know, you have to weigh up, you know, the benefits versus the, yeah.
All right. Sorry, there's one more from Lucky.
Sure.
Thank you. Do you think the use of other official languages could be beneficial to your audience?
150%. I think that is the aim of especially public health, that we are the public and it is our health. And even though English is the main medium, I think that's the beauty of everything we've been talking about with trying to do science communication and get our messages out there. There's no way that it stipulates that it has to be in English, even though most of us are communicating in English. I mean, sign language is now one of the official languages. I mean, we should be up here signing as well. So 100%, I feel that any time that we communicate our science, we might be doing in the medium that is coming to all of us, but then it's our responsibility to get it to people, including people like our hard of hearing community.
All right, thank you very, very much, Jessica. All right, so let's move from TB to our next participant. a master's student in science, specifically in chemistry at Wits University, aims to bring AI underground to assist with recycling wastewater and recovering valuable byproducts in the mining industry. Ladies and gentlemen, your hands and mine for Taskeen Hasrat.
We only know the worth of water when the well is dry. By 2030, approximately 1.3 billion people will lack access to safe drinking water. Imagine sand in your mouth, that dry, powdery feeling that just doesn't seem to go away. Access to clean water is becoming scarcer and scarcer, all while pollution from industries is continuing. South Africa relies heavily on mining to stimulate the economy, and with this comes a host of mining-related pollution, such as toxic wastewater. This is formed when toxic waste from mine dumps leaches into the underground water table and contaminates it. And we call this acid mine drainage. But one man's trash is another man's treasure. And this wastewater actually has some super interesting chemistry. Not only can we treat this water to reclaim clean water, but we can also recover valuable commercial byproducts from it. However, in order to do this, we need to know the levels of these byproducts in the wastewater. And traditional approaches used to determine this are extremely time-consuming, expensive, and with load shedding, we just can't switch our equipment on. And so that's where we bring in artificial intelligence in order to predict these levels without doing any experiments. In particular, we use something called machine learning. And to understand how this works, let's imagine we lost mom in the supermarket when she said she's going to find apples. Now we could run up and down each aisle looking for her, sort of a trial and error approach. But if we stop and think, mom said she's going to find apples, and the apples are always next to the bananas, and there's signs that tell me how to get to the bananas. A pattern emerges. Follow the signs, find bananas, find apples, find mom. And that's exactly what machine learning does. It uses mathematics and statistics to learn patterns present in large data sets. And we use machine learning to learn the patterns present in the chemistry of the wastewater. What's related to what? How strongly are they related? And how are they related to that byproduct level? So we can predict it and figure out how to extract it from the wastewater. And so we've recycled the mining pollution and provided clean water to communities. And if you want to be part of the sustainable future, I invite you to pause for a moment before you throw something away and think about how you can reuse it. Thank you.
Thank you, Taskeen. So I just looked at the word chemistry from the back, and there's a I must try in it. If you look carefully, I must try, yeah. You must just look carefully. So judges, any questions, any comments to Taskeen on artificial intelligence and how she applies that to recycling wastewater?
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for a really fascinating presentation and really helpful metaphor for those of us who are not familiar with machine learning. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more to how you're thinking about this use of AI and thinking about access to clean water. Is it something that in your research obviously is thinking about acid drainage, but is this a technology that we can think about in relation to other kind of climate crises, droughts and other water scarcity issues that are born of both capitalism and also the climate crisis, and how this technology might be of help?
Definitely. So historically, especially in the environmental sciences domain, right? Chemistry sort of falls under this domain, the research we do. We have a lot of historical data. So we've been monitoring what we call performance indices or features. These are the important things. Specifically in chemistry for water, we have water quality parameters. So your total dissolved solids, your electrical conductivity, your pH, all of that we monitor. But we have similar things that we monitor for climate, for air pollution, for, say, seawater quality, not just your drinking water. And all of these, using AI and machine learning, we can do the same thing. So once the method is developed, and like what we've done is I took 3-4 months to develop the method. But now when I pass it down to a student I co-supervise, she does it very quickly. Once the method is developed, we can use it for anything. So I'm particularly interested in predictions. So in machine learning, that's called regression, predicting mathematical values. You can have classifications, safe to drink, not safe to drink. You can have clustering. All the water in this area is safe. All the water in that area is not safe to drink. And then you can target policymakers. Why is it not safe? In particular, my research, we're looking at treatment plants. So looking at the location of these plants, they're on the outskirts of the city. And so the communities that actually get their water from it will benefit a lot, because we're going to go back to those, the treatment plant managers. We're going to say, our data and our models show that, this section you're focusing on, it's not that important. You should rather focus here. This is going to give better water, cleaner water. And even those byproducts you extract, you can sell it and perhaps give that money back to the community where they live, because these are the mining impacted communities. Yeah.
You have bowled them over with your AI and machine learning. If there's enough data, we can do all sorts of things, right? Next up, we have Caleb Swanepoel. Antibiotic resistance is a challenge, he says, and he's ready to take this on. Representing the Institute for Infectious Disease and Molecular Medicine at UCT, Caleb aims to dig deeper into something known as phage therapy. Ladies and gents, here's Caleb.
We've all been sick before. And if you're like me, you may have gone to your doctor and been given an antibiotic, and a few days later you were feeling better again. But for 1.2 million people a year, the drugs don't work and they lose their lives. Millions more are forced to live with chronic, untreatable bacterial infections. Antibiotic resistance is an ever-increasing problem in our world today. Overprescription and poor use of antibiotics, combined with the rapid rate of bacterial evolution, has led to the quick spread of antibiotic resistance around the globe. Drug-resistant superbugs are rampant in hospitals and communities alike. Old antibiotics are simply not working anymore, and drug companies can't develop new ones fast enough. But what if I told you that bacteria can get sick and die just like people? In nature, there are tiny viruses which infect and kill bacteria. These viruses are called bacteriophages, or phages for short, and they're everywhere. The air you breathe, the water you drink, even in your stomach. They've been killing bacteria since the dawn of life on this planet, and they've evolved to become very good at it. You can think of the battle between bacteria and phage like Godzilla versus King Kong, Alien versus Predator, Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman, a microscopic grudge match billions of years in the making. And now, human health may hang in the balance. Scientists are investigating how we can use these phages to treat patients with antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections. It's a brilliant plan. Use nature's own perfectly evolved bacterial killers to fight the superbugs for us. Unfortunately, there are some unknowns when it comes to using phages to treat patients. Are phages able to kill bacteria inside the human body? Will the immune system inactivate the phages before they can do any good? Or worst case scenario, will the phages harm the patients that we're trying to treat? My work aims to fill in some of these gaps. Just like people, phages come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and this diversity can make it difficult to predict exactly what they will do once inside the human body. I'm investigating how human white blood cells will react to a diverse group of phages to select the ones that are best to use to treat people. This research will inform future scientists and doctors and allow them to select the safest, most effective phages to treat their patients. Hopefully, by better understanding the bacteriophage, we'll be able to create a future where safe, effective phage therapies are the norm, and drug-resistant bacterial superbugs a thing of the past.
All right, thank you, Caleb. I don't know, judges, are you phased? Let's get some questions or comments from you.
How close are we to this becoming a reality?
So it's already a reality is the crazy thing. Phage therapy was actually in use before antibiotics were discovered. But obviously, when we discovered antibiotics, when the penicillin was discovered, everyone was like, this is amazing, it's great. There was a world war going on. They were like, we need something that works well to treat soldiers. And everyone forgot about phage therapy. Now that there's such problems with antibiotic resistance, people are looking back to what we used to do. And there are phage therapies available in the ex-USSR countries. They kind of kept on doing it. So like Russia, Georgia, that sort of area, they're still doing it, catching on in France at the moment. So it's here, we just need to do it.
And then what would doing the research in South Africa, what kind of value does that add to the existing water systems?
Yeah, so obviously drug resistance is a huge problem in this country. Anything we've got to help combat that would be huge. I mean, we've heard about TB already. MDR TB is one of the biggest health challenges in this country at the moment. Phage therapy could be applied there. It's applied in cystic fibrosis. There's so many health issues.
I'll just introduce you first. Then make sure that well, I suppose we have to tell some science jokes. Not ready? Yeah, the one about the ice block that was in the test tube. And then they brought the test tube closer to the Bunsen burner. And then the ice cube looked at the Bunsen burner, and the ice cube said, "Oh, Bunsen burner, I think I'm falling in love. Then the Bunsen burner said, don't be crazy, you're just having a phase change. That's next level.
You know, I want to laugh too, but I cannot laugh.
You didn't laugh.
Yeah.
You couldn't laugh. Like the atom who walked in and then the atom said, yo guys, I think I lost an electron. They said, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm positive. That's also next level. Né? That flies over your head. Like the neutron who went into the bar and ordered the six-pack, and the barman, gave the six-pack, and then the neutron asked, how much? The barman said, for you, no charge. I'm on a roll now, né? I'm starting to feel like a Gatsby. All right. Are we almost synchronized? Right, so we're just phoning ESCOM quickly. Amos, I don't know what you did, but I think you are the reason. That's why you are speaking after Caleb, because it would have been Caleb Scott that would sing to you. You are the reason.
I'm sure that my mother is freaking out
yes.
now.
There goes my heart breaking, my hands shaking. You are the reason. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just getting our connection set up because we just want to make sure that at least those at home are able to follow our proceedings. And then I will hand over to our last speaker. Meeting is being live streamed. We got it. And we click it. We're not clicking it yet. But I continue with the jokes. Yo. So now go into my files. I know, I don't know any more science jokes. I just know the very, very bad joke about the little snake that was going down the road to Pick and Pay. And as he was going over the speed bump, he was accompanied by his brother. They were going over the speed bump, and the brother snake said to the other snake, "You, my bro, are we poisonous?" The other said, "No, I don't know why you asked it. No, I didn't put my tongue." All right, so we are back. So apologies to those of you online. We just had a quick glitch, technical difficulties, but of course we have recovered. And you have just joined us in time because we have our last presenter for 2021. Amos is ready to tackle malnutrition, and he's going to do this head on. He's a master's graduate from the University of Limpopo and is looking at how to effectively use hormones to increase fish populations. This will help provide impoverished communities with a reliable source of protein essential for combating malnutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, our last presenter for 2023, Amos Rakwale.
Clap hands up for yourself. Clap hands for yourself. On the 26th of March, 1996, the New York Times published a picture where a vulture was eyeing to feast on a little girl because of malnutrition. And unfortunately, this malnutrition trend continues unabated in Africa because in 2030, about 433 million Africans will be undernourished. Now imagine 433 people starving to death. I'm sure that this cannot be business as usual. But what if I told you that we can change this situation only using a medical syringe? Probably you're asking yourself, why? Well, my story is about encouraging people to eat fish because fish is an excellent source of proteins, of amino acid that are necessary for the building of muscles. But unfortunately, fish in the wild are getting depleted because we are harvesting them at a faster rate than they can reproduce. Now you're asking yourself, actually, what is the solution? Well, look at me, I have the solution. Well, we fetch a small portion of fish from the ocean, right? And then we put them into tanks that are filled with river water or marine water. Then we use water heaters to heat the water so that it can be the same as in the ocean. Then after that, We then feed this fish with food such as chicken livers because chicken livers promote the reproduction of fish. Then after that, after a while, we then take this fish and dip it into water that contains a sedative. The reason why we do that is because later we are going to inject the fish with a liquid substance called hormones, right? So the sedative makes sure that the fish is unconscious so that it does not experience any pain. And after, what will happen is that the hormone will stimulate the brain of the fish to release more of hormones that are associated with the reproduction of fish. So therefore, within a short space of time, we are going to have a lot of fish eggs and sperm cell. Then they fertilize. After fertilizing, then we take the small fish and then transfer them into another tank where we feed them food so that they can grow and sell. This whole practice, it's called aquaculture, which is also commonly known as fish farming. Some of you, of course, you're asking yourself, Amos, is the fish safe to eat because it is injected? Well, actually it is, because the importance of the hormone is just to trigger the release of the eggs. It does not remain in the flesh. So this practice of aquaculture gives us unlimited supply of fish. It also, it gives us an opportunity to restore the depleted fish stock that we have harvested. Tell me, that is a better way to live because we are given an opportunity to fix our mistakes as human beings. That is the power of science. So thank you very much, listeners.
All right, so that was Amos Judges. I don't know, there was something about fish eating chicken livers. They go into Nando's, and then after they come from Nando's, they go to the fishery, and then you inject them, and then you get more fish. So comments, questions, Lucky.
Thank you very much, Amos, for the presentation. It sounds like there is an entrepreneurial element to your study as well.
Most definitely, yes.
Can you just elaborate on that, please?
Okay. For example, the entire aquaculture industry in the world is worth about 280 billion rand. So that's a luxurious industry. So now imagine with this high unemployment rate in the country, especially with the young people, now it gives them an opportunity to, it's sort of like an alternative entrepreneur. So instead of, actually it's me commercializing the research that I do, or other people can take the idea and commercialize on it. So yeah, most definitely it is an area of entrepreneurship.
And have you given much consideration to the organic movement?
The organic movement, can you elaborate?
People who want to eat food that is organic.
Okay, now that is a problem now. Okay, no, it's not a problem actually. We have to acknowledge other people's emotions and sensitivity. But the thing is, climate change is upon us. You have reoccurrent wars on the African continent that destroys the agriculture and agricultural infrastructure. So in those kind of situations, you do not have enough space or even the facilities to produce the organic food that other people do want to eat. I mean, imagine if in 1993, you had a bird trying to feast on a girl because she was undernourished, and now the same trend continues in 2030. Why, if the organic practice was the only way, why do we still have this continuous trend of malnutrition? So there's a lot going on the African continent. So it's unfortunate, especially with climate change, wars, starvation, and lack of infrastructure, because you do need money for those organic agricultural practices.
So Amos, you described that whole aquaculture process. So I'm just interested in finding out your research. What are you zeroing in on? What are you focusing? What processes are you trying to improve and so on?
Okay. So there's a fish species. Previously, scientists were able to grow this fish species in these tanks, right? But unfortunately, they would do that by taking fish from the ocean and growing them into this facility. Unfortunately, when they are in these tank facilities, they cannot reproduce themselves. So my research area was to actually use injection to see if under this situation, can the fish be able to reproduce? And I do not want to preempt the findings because I still have to publish a paper on that. But it did reproduce.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amos. So that is breeding in captivity. And I think as you were talking, often when you speak about ethics, it's not about right versus wrong, but it's right versus right. And you sometimes have to choose which right is more right. And that is the dilemma with ethics. So thanks to all our contestants. You have taken us on a brilliant ride. We started off talking about bees, and then we went from the bee's knees to HIV, and then we went to tooth decay, and then we spoke about anxiety and depression, and then we went to hospitals to sort out issues around evacuation processes, and then we had Jason who spoke about statistics, which is like a bathing costume, right? It shows you what you want to see. And then we had Jessica talking about tuberculosis, and Taskeen from Wits University about AI. Then we were back with Caleb on antibiotics. And finally, we had a fish story that went via Nando's. And now we're going to end up in Entrepreneurial Village. So thanks again. Let's give them a round of applause. All our contestants for 2023. So we're going to take, in a sense, almost like a short break because the judges need to go and count their numbers, and then we need Deloitte to come in and check that all the numbers have added up. And I'm now supposed to hand the microphone over to Thabani Mtsi, who's a FameLab South Africa trainer and an alumni, and he's going to keep you busy. So Thabani, ladies and gentlemen, I met him. I've never met him. He's here today, and he's here to keep you busy while the judges do the mathematics.
Thank you so much, good sir. Oh, is that for me? Wow, look at you guys. Okay, as per has been mentioned, can you all hear me? Okay, I'm Thabani Mtsi.
So just wear it for the online.
Oh, got you.
Just wrap this.
Should be good. There are going to be two of us. Nehemiah is also going to be coming up. I'm going to mic him up as well. Okay, testing, can you guys hear me? Ha, testing, can you guys hear me? Then why are you saying no if you can't hear me? Okay, so as I'd mentioned, my name is Thabani Mtsi, and tonight I'll be facilitating the break, I guess. And you know, let me not say I guess, I will be facilitating the break. And what we're going to be doing in the break is I'm going to be talking to our former FameLab winner. So I'm going to be calling up with Dr. Nehemiah on the stage, have a conversation with him. And this is predominantly, you know, it's targeted at one, finding out what his journey of getting to that world stage was, right? And then what is the aftermath of that? And we really want to engage the young students tonight because we want to hear from them some of the questions they have either for the past participants that have spoken to us tonight. And if you have any questions to you learners about what does it mean to be a scientist, what some of your aspirations are, and perhaps we're going to take a few questions and comments and hear what you guys are up to and what some of your aspirations are. So Dr. Nehemiah, I'm going to ask you to come up. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Let's get some chairs, brother. Let's get some chairs so we can have this conversation proper. Okay, so you'll forgive me for shifting stuff on the stage. I'm a civil engineer. I've got an excuse. Yes. Okay, so you know, I got the privilege of witnessing your journey. You know, insofar as you were in the training class, and there's actually a video of me circulating in the internet that says Nehemiah took it to another level. You know, and it's up to the next speakers to then take it on from that level, and obviously no one took it from that level. You just put it on another level. And so, you know, for the audience members, please, come closer. Thank you. I appreciate you all. So briefly introduce yourself and a bit about your journey of going to the FameLab stage and coming back with the gold for the country.
So thank you very much for having me here this evening. I'm incredibly humbled to be sitting among some of our past FameLab winners. I see Tiamo in the audience. It was, of course, our first South African winner and our first international winner as well. So it's lovely to have her here tonight. FameLab is, of course, a community of science communicators that just keeps on building. We meet new family and we keep on growing. So a bit about myself, I'm a phytochemist. Maybe you're wondering what that is. Well, it's a chemist that studies the chemistry in plants, but specifically those plants used in the treatment in indigenous medicinal practices in the treatment of diabetes. And so that's where I come in, and that's the story I wanted to share. I look back as a child, we had these odd medicinal practices at home, right? On a Saturday morning, we would be fed aloe vera that's mixed in a sodium salt mixture of Epsom salt, and you would have to ingest that. And then after that, you get a nice orange at the end. But that meant we rarely went to the hospital as children looking back. We didn't suffer from acne or acne scars, things like that. And so those were practices that really interested me when I became of age and thought what I wanted to do with my life and with my career. It was pretty clear from an early age that I had no intention of working with blood or touching people intimately in that way. And so I thought, what was the next best thing? And that was contributing to medicine in a way that is in the lab, that I could help people in that way. So that's a bit about myself and why I'm here. So FameLab came about when I finished my PhD, studying what I described in the beginning. I suddenly got to a point where I noticed that when I was speaking, people didn't quite understand what I was saying, particularly engaging with students in the classroom, teaching general chemistry, engaging with my community. I noticed that I'm using a language that's kind of not accessible to them anymore. They don't know what I'm saying because I'm using the sciencey language. And I decided to join FameLab because FameLab takes you on this wild goose ride journey that forces you to break down all of that language, but not compromise the science, right? So that you can bring the science forth in a way that's understandable from a grade 4 learner, a standard 1 student in my days, all the way to your grandma and your grandparents at home. So that's my journey. Obviously, I participated then in the FameLab South Africa, went on to win the FameLab International, and that just opened me up to this world of science communication, because then now the DSI wanted to send me to this interview and that interview, and then people were contacting me on social media to comment on this issue or that issue. Can they get the plant? Can I verify that the plant heals people, right? And so it's an incredibly uncomfortable place to be in. You know, I'm green as an early academic, and yeah, I'm facing these global questions. And what science communication does is it breaks down that barrier of my expertise. I'm able to say, okay, I'm an expert in this, but I'm also still learning. So I would love to have a conversation with you on how my work progresses. What it is specifically I do and what I can tell you about it at this point in time. We need to also get comfortable with the concept that everything is not known. 100%. Even us scientists, though, that speak on particular our focus areas, we don't know everything of that area. What we are sharing with you is what we know that the technology, that the thinkers, that the philosophers at this point in time have come up with. And so it's like sharing that knowledge and really breaking down who really is the knowledge keeper. And we both create knowledge together. So that is what my journey taught me.
Sure, and thank you for sharing it. So there are a few points that I want to sort of drill down and double click on. You leave high school, and what is young Nehemiah says he wants to be? Because I haven't heard phytochemistry, right? I think the most complex thing I'd heard about phyto was phytoplankton from SpongeBob, right? So young high school student stepping out into the university world, what are some of the thoughts going through your mind, and how do you find out about phytochemistry?
So I come from what you call a previously disadvantaged area or upbringing. And so for me, these questions since grade 10, I've been thinking to myself, what do I want to do with my future? How am I going to do something that's going to change my life, but not only change my life, but change the lives of those that follow behind me, right? And so from a young age, I was very cognizant that what it is I wanted to do, right? But I had good role models. I had my sister who was at the time when I was in grade 10, she was studying nursing. And so we would study together, we would engage together, and she opened my mind up to this world of medicine, right? And so I knew when I saw infectious diseases and burn and all of these pictures, I knew that that was not for me, but the passion was there. I come from an incredible line of public speakers, politicians, orators and pastors, right? Missionaries. And so we were always taught that there's a good that you have. You are here for a greater good. You are here to influence society, and how do you change people's lives? And so that was the thing for me that was most important. Coming to the university space, when I saw the third degree burn, so my sister, I knew, no, medicine is not for me, but I have this passion. And so I found the next best thing, which was studying how we better facilitate health, which was organic chemistry. I loved naming things. Like in organic chemistry, you know, you have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's try. And then if there's an oxygen and an H attached, then it's an all, right? I was incredibly fascinated by that, by naming these compounds. And I thought that there's a place for this and I want to explore that. So I went into university, and it wasn't a straightforward pathway. I applied for university. I wrote my matric exam. I came out with strong APSs, but as the journey went on, I became tired. By the end of my matric year, I was incredibly fatigued. I ended up getting lower than the required APS. I was invited to join an extended program. I didn't really see that as an avenue for me. So I joined a diploma route in analytical chemistry. And I started off in analytical chemistry, and I went from analytical chemistry all the way from honors to masters and to PhD. And so there's various ways of getting to your dream. So when you are dismayed by certain circumstances, maybe you don't do so good in that test and you think, now I can't go to medical school, now I can't do that career path. There's always ways to get to where you ought to be. In Africa, indigenous knowledge, in Africa, we have a saying that you will always end up where you're meant to be. Everyone in the room is meant to be there. And so I invite you to follow your passions and just go with it. You know?
Sure, I love that. Round of applause for that. Wow. So somebody recently said on social media, what's 8 plus 2? 8 plus 2? What's 5 plus 5? What's 9 plus 1?
10.
The point I was trying to make that there are various ways of getting to the number 10.
Exactly.
Right? And if you think that I'm going to go the 5 plus 5 route and there is no other way, you tend to get lost and you get discouraged very early. Now, I quickly want to take some questions from the students. Curious to hear what some of your thoughts are. If you have any questions for the earlier participants or Dr. Nehemiah here, please feel free. And I must encourage that if someone asks a question first, we've got a special surprise for you.
Hello, my name is Matum Mhlala, and I just wanted to ask, what makes you different from other candidates in your field?
Interesting question. Are we going to take another question? Should I answer?
I'm actually curious to hear you answer, and then some of our participants from today. I'll also be curious to hear their answers. So you can start us off.
So innately, when you venture into research, ultimately you have to uncover knowledge, right? Everyone asks you, what is your specific niche? What is new about what you are presenting? And you would have heard everyone presenting here this afternoon had something new, right? So there is a global problem or there is a global cause, but there's something specific that you are looking at to solve that, right? And so particularly with mine, what I thought made me unique was I was looking at phytochemistry, but I was looking at it from a perspective of the everyday people around me, using their knowledge systems to bring it to the laboratory and together making meaning, right? Sometimes a huge flaw we do in science is we have brilliant ideas, brilliant ideas. However, when we present these ideas to society, they're not applicable for some whatever reason. It could be a cultural reason, it could be a spiritual reason, it could just be that it just doesn't fit in the context of what is around the people. So it's important to find what it is that you want to do that is unique, how that is in service of society, and together how you form change in your community, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah? Yeah? Let's take 2 participants from today. Yeah?
So sorry, it's hard to look at you and also speak into the microphone. I love your guys' uniform, by the way. It's great. I think what makes me different from other people in my field, I almost said difficult. My supervisor would agree. I know she's watching. I'm not afraid to try things. Like I'll just, just give it a go. And I think that comes from watching too much Mythbusters as a child. Failure is always an option. So yeah, I think my willingness to kind of try something, fail, and then try again and just, give it a shot.
Yeah, sure. Love that. Round of applause for him. Let's take one from the ladies.
Okay, can I just speak? Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I know different from, like, if I think about back in school, I always did feel very weird. And the things that I liked or the things that I was interested in were always very weird. And I carried that into a research career in science. So even then, when I went to my supervisor and I was asking for like research things, I was like, no, you know what, this is a bit boring. I want something really interesting. So even in the way that I tackled it, I found that my weirdness somehow came through in my research.
Sure.
And I found a space in which I could thrive. So if you have that streak and you're feeling like a little bit odd from everybody else, that I would highly recommend a research career in science. This is where you'll find everybody else who's also very weird and also very different. And your weirdness is really appreciated.
Sure. Thank you for that. Sure. And from all 3 participants, what I'm getting is they all look back to who they were when they were younger. This is the person that formed who they are today. So in the stage that you guys are in, be attentive. What interests me? What do I like? What do I pay attention to? And 5, 6, 7 years from now, you'll be shocked to see that that's actually who you become. I look back at some of the things that I was interested and curious about back when I was a little boy, and I'm like, that's the stuff that I'm interested in now. That's the stuff that I'm great at now, right? And what questions are you asking at this stage in your life? And keep those questions still. And I think as a parting shot, you will sometimes have questions and you'll think, no, man, someone has figured this out. Surely someone has asked this question already. Surely someone has had this conversation already. This question is not novel. You will be surprised at how few people actually ask the questions that you ask. So always ask questions. Always ask, why are we doing this? Where is this going to take us? And what are new ways that we can do this better? And you'll find that in a world of young professionals, researchers, and even, not even young, old, in a world of professionals, you'll find that what your voice brings to the table is most likely a voice that hasn't entered the table yet. And so you need to share your voice in order to realize how much change you can impact. Okay, let's take another question from the students, perhaps. We'll take one more for the students, and then I see there. I love this. Let's take all of them, but I'm going to start from right at the back. So if you're right at the back row, then if you're in the next row, then we'll take 4 at a time this time around.
Evening. My name's Fortune Aswatalam. I wanted to ask, did you find your place immediately, or were you just tapping into different places?
Sure. Maybe let's take Kay start us off with this one, and then you can chip in. Yeah?
Okay, that's a great question. I didn't find, I'll have to face this way. But okay, I'll face you.
Let me do this.
Oh yeah, I can just use this.
Look at scientists doing the thing.
All right, that's a great question. I didn't find my place immediately, and I wouldn't even say that I've found my place yet. So my first qualification was in chemistry and biochemistry. My second one was in medicinal plants, and then I moved to botany. So I'm very led by my curiosity. So I wouldn't say I've found a place. I'm constantly searching for one.
Sure. You want to take it?
Yeah, even I'd like to say, even if the place you want to be doesn't exist, you can create it. Okay. For example, I'm a chemist. I've done little chemical engineering, but never in my wildest dreams was I like formally taught coding, and now I'm doing AI. So it's about your passions and what you see, what you can bring to the world, what's different in your field, how I can help people in my field to sort of expedite the process. So as much as it is about, finding your place in the world, if you have a passion, anything you have a passion for, you will make your own place in the world. When I chose to come into AI, ChatGPT wasn't even released. Now it's released, it's booming, right? So it's about finding that passion, seeing what you're good at, seeing where there's a demand for it, and then literally just running at it full speed. Even if you fall down, you learn more when things don't work than when things work. That's why you got to be adaptable. But if you got a passion for something, you can make it real.
Sure.
If I could maybe just add to that also,
Yeah.
to what the colleagues, I agree wholeheartedly with what the colleagues say. It was also my journey. But you must start somewhere, right? Don't spend too much time thinking about what is the great passion, right? A lot of students who get to a level where they are doing their research spend so much time in writing their theses because they think their thesis is going to change the world. A sad reality is your thesis is not going to change the world, right? There are far few theses that change the world. Maybe in the time when science was still forming, Newton's idea changed the world. Right? From that iteration, there's been million Newtons that followed, that came and contributed to that. So think as, how do you contribute to the conversation? What is the conversation that's being had? And how do you want to contribute to that? And start anywhere. You can start anywhere. You need the right people around you. So look at the universities that you choose. Look at the professors there. Are these the people that you aspire towards? Or are these the people that are working in the field that you want to work to? And accrue your community. Build a community as you go along that help you to get to your passion.
Yeah. Sure. Round of applause there. Let's go to the next row. Next question.
Hi, I'm Benjamin. My question is, with the bees, is it possible that you can just take one of the females in the hive and put her in another hive and she will become the queen?
Okay, so I'm assuming this is directed to me, yes? Because it was quite specific. I cannot say I have the right answer for you. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's what my research focuses on. I am putting hundreds of honeybee workers in a cage and exposing them to multiple different pheromones and hoping that at the end, because honeybees normally would start to become or to show that they want to become reproductively active at the ages of 10 days old. So by then, I look at their ovaries, and yes, they do have ovaries. I look at their ovaries and I try to see, okay, has there been a change since then? So at the end of my research, I will probably be able to answer your question and to tell you that, okay, bees can, if you take one bee, put it in a cage, it can actually become reproductively active.
Before you ask that question, I think there's someone special who wants to ask a special question. There's a young lady in pink there. I'm seeing she was toying with her mic a bit. Do you want to ask a question, Nana? No, thank you. Okay, I was just checking in. Okay, let's get a question from one of the learners.
Hi, I'm Michael Milan. I would like to ask, how would you guys obtain funding for your research or other ways to get to inspire yourself to do the research or be able to do the research?
Let's get some of the participants. How do you get the money? Yeah.
Okay, so you're asking about motivation. Did I get your answer? I mean, your question properly? Or it's about the money?
First about money. Then it's motivation.
How do you get the money to get into research? Okay, so you see, we are here at this place, right? There's a logo there. It's written National Research Foundation. It funds students that want to do research. But then before even that, if you want to get into university, there are so many people willing to take you to school. And when I say this, I mean, they're going to pay for your food, for your clothes, and for your education. And on top of that, sometimes if you get a good bursary, they could also pay for your travel. So there's multiple of funders out there that are willing to actually fund you to study. Just make sure that you get the good grades and you stay working. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Funding is a great challenge. We recently, with my university, the Nelson Mandela University, look into that. We recently went on a recruitment drive in West Africa, and we went specifically to Nigeria and Ghana. This is a part of our university's reimagining itself as centering itself in Africa, following the steps of Nelson Mandela through Africa, right? So a part of that journey is students always ask, how do we get funding? Now, there's two ways and two tiers of funding. There's funding at undergraduate level, which when you enter university, and then there's funding at postgraduate level. At undergraduate level, it's not as structured. There is a myriad of scholarships and bursaries. And what we find is that students do not read or don't have access to the information, right? And so teach you yourself. If you have a school guidance counselor, go to your school guidance counselor and say, I would like to do engineering. Can you please help me find the bursaries for engineering? They will help you find the bursaries for engineering. If you don't have a school guidance counselor, maybe your physics teacher, your maths teacher, just ask them, can you help me? Or your mom or your dad, ask them to help you. There are many funding opportunities out there that you can study through. My colleagues hinted at the NRF. At postgraduate level, you can also get funding. There's the NRF bodies, but most universities have council funds as well, right? So once you reach the research level, you would introduce yourself to a supervisor, someone who's going to mentor you and guide you, and that person will be able to support you to get funding from the NRF, to get council funding from your institution. And even there are bursaries attached to CSIR next door, there are bursaries attached to Anglo-Sax, there are bursaries attached to Deloitte, there are bursaries attached to all of these different fields that you want to go. So funding isn't the issue. The issue is you need to find the information quick enough, early enough to apply to an institution and to apply to a bursary to be able to get those resources.
Sure, round of applause. Let's continue on our train of conversation. There were some other questions there.
Sanborn.
Sure, leadership.
Anongisha malima mabili. Isingisi nesiZulu ngapha nangapha.
Oh, batata.
Ngiyaxolisa lawa ngeke ngizwe. Ngiqala ngosisi wami lapha nombali Gumede. Mina ngifuna umbuza ngoba ke injovo yakhe HIV angiphutha. Ngokuthi okay izosebenza kodwa ngithi une intensity igama lesingisi intensity yabo ukuthi
intensity
le ukuthi ufaka injovo yakhe ngoba ngithi umuntu afuna ukuba nephilisi lifetime asithi ke leyo injovo yakhe bani affect ne HIV ibuye uzoyenzani mhlawumbe ngakhanda nezinye izifo engazazi uzoxakeka qalime phansi futhi efuna understand leso sifo lesi asikhandile yena noma uzenza ini futhi omunye umbuzo uzoya ubhuti wami India lapha Kaylen azibani sibonga sakhe already amakhambi akhe la ehlahla yena futhi yena chaza ukuthi uzopholisa umuntu ngokudla ikhambi mayedla ikhambi chaza ukuthi ukhanda enye into yensango noma utshwala to the next level makhanda kanjani ngoba enzani upholisa umuntu ingqondo kanti ngcono ngabe ufundisa ukuthi azi umuntu kahle futhi umuntu ekwazi uku-understanda yena kumizwa yakhe ngoba akekho umuntu ofuna ukudiphenda kwimithi umuntu ezi-understande ubumnyama bakhe khona ezofika kukhanya kwakhe enye izoya u-Justin lapha ukuthi yena uthe you can create your own world makhanda wakho umhlaba ama-AI robots akhe futhi angithi a-predict indaba mhlawumbe engakwazi ukukhanda umunye ushintsho ekwazi ukushintsha amanzi ngithi yena predict ishintsha amanzi ukuthi ebe la ukuphuza angiqedile.
Hey. That's one. So you're going to take the first question. Is Kaylin in? Kaylin, there was a question for you around mental health and the indigenous medicine use that you're implementing. So the question was around how can you, one, how are we sure that you're not creating new drugs? One, right? Like new things for people to get lit on. Then the second one is, what is there to say about people taking care of themselves and understanding their inner demons and their inner darkness, as opposed to highly relying on medication? So that was the question for you. Then the third question, it was about AI. And
that you can create your own world with AI and you using it to look at water and how do you get purified water. I guess the question is asking, how do you use AI to create worlds like that or solve problems? Right?
Yeah, especially given its predictive nature. So round of applause for the questions. They won. And then my good people at the back are saying it's time. So we're going to capture those questions. I hope the participants have captured them. And leadership, you're going to get your answers. And at this point, we're going to hand over back to the MC. And thank you all for listening and thank you for engaging. Appreciate you.
Right, thanks, Dabani. Thanks for facilitating this part of the program and getting people to get involved and to ask some brilliant questions. And thanks to everybody who responded to those questions. Ladies and gents, before we make the announcement, I'm going to call to the podium from Jive Media, Research Engagement Specialist, Mr. Robert Inglis, to do the vote of thanks. And then I assume that you will also do the announcement. Is that it? You shall not. You want to run away because you don't want to be the one. Oh, right.
Thanks very much. I'll make this very, very brief, but it would be amiss if I did not give some special thanks to people who've made this whole thing possible. First of all, just a huge congratulations to everyone. It's magnificent to see all of your science and all of your development in this process as you've moved forward through this competition. And it's been a long, long journey. And it's not over for us, and it's not over for a couple of people, but really huge, huge, huge congratulations to you all. I have to say a huge thank you to SASTA, who has supported us, as I mentioned in our seminar this afternoon, for all 11 years that we've run this competition in South Africa. So thank you for massive support. We really could not have done this without you over the years. As Gillian said, we have trained thousands of researchers, and we found that each of those, and especially those who proceed through into this phase of the competition, look back at FameLab as a pivotal moment in terms of their development as scientists, because it was the point at which, for many of them, that they brought on board the idea that an excellent scientist is a communicating scientist, somebody who is able to not only develop and generate knowledge, but to share that knowledge as well. So thanks, huge thanks to SASTA. And of course, SASTA is a business unit of the National Research Foundation. The NRF has provided the space for us, and thanks very much for all the support throughout this entire process. A huge thanks to the judges. They're not on stage with me now, but they had the unenviable task of making a selection of someone to send through to the final. I think they're glad not to be announcing those decisions as well, because they were just torn. But we have to allow Gillian to get back on his flight and travel back to Cape Town, so we couldn't keep going on deliberating forever. So, and then finally to partners and hosts around the country. We cannot run the competition without partners and partnerships. So in each institution around the country that held a partnership, held a FameLab event this year, we just want to say a huge, huge thank you. And we're looking to engage more organizations in the year ahead, as we've had, I think, 12 partner organizations this year, and of course, we'd love to have more in the year ahead. So if there's anything that we can do to support that skills development for researchers among your organizations, please do get in touch, and we can sign you up and make sure that you're part of this competition in the year ahead. That's really all from me. I'm going to hand back to Gillian. Huge thanks to all of you, and thanks for coming out this evening, and thanks to all of those who bore with us during the challenges on the live stream. The load shedding, it dropped us each time it came in, but thanks for those who are still with us, and once again, have a lovely evening.
Right, thanks Robert, and thanks to the team and everybody in the background who kept us going, and to you at home, thanks for bearing with us. Ladies and gents, it's my privilege now to announce the two runners-up, and then obviously the winner, and I'm going to call to the stage our international winner, Dr. Nehemiah. I probably pronounced it wrong again. Nehemiah. Is that better?
Nehemiah.
Nehemiah.
Never floats your boat.
My boat never floats, but here we are. All right. So we're going to first announce the two runners-up, and then we will announce the person who will be representing us later in the year at the international competition. So you'll be standing somewhere there so that we have a beautiful background. So our first runner-up for 2023, ladies and gentlemen, Caleb Swanepoel. Right, so just hold it, touch, pause, smile, engage, camera ready, thumb up. Right. Our second runner-up for 2023. Did I tell you that story about Aisha Osman? Right, and our FameLab champion, FameLab South Africa 2023. You'll also be receiving a check. That is not really a check, but that is just to make you look pretty. The winner is nobody else than the one, the only, TH, or also known as Taskeen Hasra. Ladies and gentlemen, that then brings us to the formal end. Congratulations again to all our winners and runners-up. And for you at home, thanks for being with us today. And remember, on social media, use hashtag FameLab 2023, FameLab SA, as we celebrate the winners. And thanks again for your willingness to share your signs and share it with this audience. Thanks to our youngsters. Thanks for those brilliant questions. And a word of thanks to all our judges. And we now have to celebrate. Oh, wait, you have some more people? We have to give everyone certificates. Are you going to give that to them? All right, so everyone come on stage. I'm not going to call out your name because I'm going to mess it up again. Come and receive your, oh, sorry, in your seating order. So that was G. Moratilion. And then we had Nombali. I think you can all stay and then we take a nice group picture at the end. And then, of course, we had Aisha.
Yeah, you can all feel.
Then we had Kaylin Reddy. We had Carla Horn. Then from UP, we had Jason Pillay. From UKZN, we had Jessica Moore. From Wits University, we had Taskeen. From UCT, Caleb Swanepoel. And then last but not least, from the University of Limpopo, we had Amos. So those are all our participants. Those are the ones who braved the storm, who took time out to be here, who prepared their 3-minute presentations, and who presented it to the judges this afternoon. So congratulations once again to all of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of what we call the pop idols of science. And we will be watching you going forward as you keep on telling your stories. Remember, your story, your pain can become the inspiration of somebody else. So keep on telling your story. But now you've done telling the story, so you can smile, look happy. I know you've never won anything in your life, so just pretend that this is that time. You don't know what's in the envelope, but just be happy. Thank you. All right, and I'm just going to quickly call to the stage our 4 judges who had the difficult task of choosing a winner. So if you guys could also just quickly come on stage. We had Ina from Health E News Service, Lucky from the Human Sciences Research Council, Nozipo from University of the Witwatersrand, and then we had Tabiso from the National Research Foundation. So let's just pause, stand, smile for the camera. Remember to declare if there's anything in the envelope that exceeds the limit, then you have to declare that to the powers that be.
All of you, like this is really hard decision.
Right, so the photo is just for you guys to just remember who they were. So if you see them in public, you know, yeah. To give them a hug. That's what we do. So thanks again. Thanks to all our online viewers as well. Thanks for being here. And do keep the spirit going. Let's keep the conversations going, because the more we talk about science, the more we will entice other people to join this wonderful, wonderful activity. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your week and then the long weekend that lies ahead.
It's the really the cleaning up process.